My next guest is an attorney, a former Real Housewife of New York, and the host of the podcast Holding Court with Eboni K. Williams on the iHeart Network, which, by the way, is fresh off an NAACP Image Award win. Let's get that out the way first, okay? The podcast features on news, or is featured on newsmaking cases and famous faces. Please welcome the lovely Eboni K. Williams. How you doing, girl? Long time no see. How have you been?
Smith, it's been a minute. Congratulations, brother. You look amazing.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
I appreciate
yes,
it.
yes.
So do you.
Thank
so do you. Let's get right into it because we got a lot of stuff to get into.
Yes,
we got a
we
lot
do.
of stuff, especially as it entails you directly and in a good way. But before we even get into that, I got to ask you right now.
Yeah.
You know about this case, and we've talked about this case against Sean P. Diddy Combs, obviously being accused of sexual assault, sexual trafficking, engaging in other criminal activity. You've seen all of this take place, all of this come in motion. What were your thoughts when you first heard about it?
Well, you know, Stephen, I can't say I'm surprised. Unfortunately, you know, we are still very much, as a society and as a culture, dealing with the continued reckoning, as it will, with Me Too. So we know no industry is untouched. And so there was just a matter of time before we saw more of it as it relates to hip hop. So the allegations are horrendous. We all kind of, I think, were rocked a bit in late November 2023 when we saw the original Cassie of it all, which really started what became a snowball of what we've seen thus far. There's at least 6 current litigation spaces in which he's named, and the most recent being where he's a named defendant, not accused of sex assault, but of aiding and abetting the sex assault of allegedly his son. We're talking about Christian Combs.
That's right.
Yeah, so it's sad, it's heavy. Of course, all allegations at this point, he's not been convicted of anything. In fact, he's not been criminally charged.
That's right.
Of anything.
And
I
what
think
are we
that's
to make
important.
of that? What are we to make about the fact that it's been going on for weeks now? We've seen Homeland Security raid his homes in both Miami and Los Angeles, but no arrest has taken place. Because of your legal mind, your legal expertise, what do you make about the fact that no charges have been leveled against him as of yet?
I don't make much of it, Stephen. The feds are fetting. That's what that tells me. The federal government is, we've been aware for weeks. I assure you this has been going on for months in terms of the investigation. Months of collecting evidence, getting witnesses to collaborate particular stories and testimonies. What we're seeing now are kind of probably the final stages of what this investigation looks like. We know the recent, you're talking about the home, and I want to get back to the Homeland Security piece, not the FBI.
That's right.
All federal agencies, but they're a little different. I want to spend some time there in a second, put a pin in it. But the fact that they specifically, Stephen A., recently collected cell phones, other electronic devices, that's kind of the end of the road, as we say. Those are going to be the final pieces that they're looking to corroborate, probably some pre-existing testimonials for I would imagine a long list of potential witnesses.
Let's go there for a second. When we talk about Homeland Security, the difference between local PD, FBI, Homeland Security, what are we to make of the fact that Homeland Security is the one that raided these homes as opposed to the FBI or local police?
That part is fascinating to me. Now that's where I'm interested, really interested, because normally we would see sex trafficking, racketeering. It sounds a lot like recently what we saw with R. Kelly. It sounds like other things we've seen in the headlines. The fact that it's not the FBI and it's Homeland Security. Homeland Security, Stephen A., is a relatively new federal division. We just got it post 9/11. It is a direct result of 9/11. So it triggers certain things, right? It normally triggers terrorism, to be quite direct, issues around border control, border safety. So when you think of some of these civil litigations that name Puffy right now, some of them also include the illegal selling of arms, the illegal selling of drugs, in addition to the sex trafficking. So I don't want to put the cart before the horse. We don't want to do any too much speculation here, but there's something awry where they're thinking that there is something dealing with the border issue and potentially a foreign threat of some nature. It's got to be in the mix for them to go with Homeland Security.
And the one thing that comes to my mind is when we talk about sex trafficking, obviously, that's something that could be of an international variety, and obviously it entails crossing the borders, and that might be the justification as to why Homeland Security got involved. I'm looking at the case, his former girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, she brought against him. It was settled a day after after it was filed. Is that what set all of this in motion, in your estimation?
It did. I can't help it. When you read it, I think of what my grandmother would have said, a day late and a dollar short.
One day.
Well, and let's kind of just name it, right? The one day says that obviously Mr. Combs and his legal team might have thought this was a bluff. And sometimes this happens when you're on the back end, meaning you're on the legal representation side of these types of lawsuits, Stephen A. Know that before somebody walks that lawsuit and gets it filed in the clerk of court, there have been numerous what we call pre-litigation conversations. Lawyers picking up the phone, calling your legal team. Well, do we have an opportunity to settle this? Well, I don't think so. Well, all of that led to no resolution, which is why the lawsuit was actually filed and then settled a day later. It tells me, Stephen A., that they likely thought that the lawsuit would never actually see the light of day, that there would be so much probably fear, anxiety, hesitation, that some of the, let's just say, horrendous and horribly egregious details that we all read in that very lengthy lawsuit from Cassie would never want to be exposed. The fact that there was a willingness to finally go there publicly prompted the very quick, 24 hours. I don't think I've ever seen something publicly so quick, the settlement there. And yes, to answer your question, it set everything in motion. It opened the door, as we say, to now what we're seeing as a litany of civil litigation attempts.
Another woman, Joey Dickerson Neal.
Yes.
She filed a lawsuit a day before the Adult Survivors Act expired.
Yes, she
First
did.
of all, explain the Adult Survivors Act, please, and its relevance.
I can. So I just recently stepped aside from my tenure. I served 6 years, Stephen A., on a board of directors for a wonderful organization called Safe Horizon. We are the largest victims advocacy group for services of victims of violent crime in the country. We specialize on New York. I named the organization because we were very vital in leading what became a legislative effort. So I want to be very clear. The Sexual Survivors Act is a law. It is specific to the state of New York, and it allows a look-back window of 1 year. It says that if you have been abused and you want to be able to prove that in a court of civil law, so none of this is criminal, this is civil, these are lawsuits, civil litigation remedies, you have 1 year to bring your claim. A claim that previously would have not been viable due to statutes of limitations. So you could have been alleging that you were assaulted or harmed 20, 30, 40 years ago.
Well,
literally.
Dickerson Neal claims that nearly 32 years ago, the incident with her and P. Diddy Combs took place.
Let's think about what's it, Jean Carroll, who recently won her lawsuit against Trump. I think it's on appeal again now. That was, 40 years ago, something plus, all of a result of this look-back window. So this young lady, Joy, was able to file 1 day before the expiration of that. And I think people thought there were going to be more. I'll tell you, in the legal community, Stephen A., we were expecting even more people to come forward right before that look-back window.
Thanks again to the wonderful Eboni K. Williams. To catch her interview with yours truly in its entirety, look for the Stephen A. Smith Show on YouTube later on this week, and you will see, again, yours truly talking to Miss Eboni K. Williams in its entirety. Don't miss it. Oh, she has a lot more to say about politics, about ladies and men and relationships and everything else in between. Please trust me on this. Don't miss it.